And back here, there is no doubt Nigeria and South Africa relations have experienced a roller coaster ride with a significant impact on peace, sustainable development, and regional integration in Africa. Despite concerns about xenophobia between Nigeria and South Africa, bilateral ties between the two countries hit $2.9 billion in 2020, with hopes of improved trade with the African Continental Free Trade Area. Earlier last month, Nigeria's High Commissioner to South Africa announced the plans by President Cyril Ramaphosa to embark on a state visit to Nigeria this month. Ahead of this visit, we found it pertinent to look at trade relations and bilateral ties between these two countries and the expectations from this expected visit. We will have this conversation with the former chairman, Nigeria's South Africa Chamber of Commerce, and of course, the chairman of Phillips Consulting, Mr. Phillips. Good morning, Mr. Phillips. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. We do appreciate your time.
Good morning. Nice to be here as usual.
So tell me, what's your assessment of the level of trade and investment relations between Nigeria and South Africa, and how fast is it growing?
I think we got to have a bit of a historical perspective because way back in the early 90s, when Nigeria opened up with South Africa, not South Africa itself opened up its doors to the rest of Africa, there's a lot of excitement about what can be done, a lot of discoveries made by other African countries with respect to South Africa and what South Africa had to offer. And I must say that it started off in a pretty aggressive way. There were a bit of quiet trepidation on both parts until we sort of discovered our strengths. And we kicked off pretty well. If you look way back in 2001, the total bilateral trade value was about 3.2 billion. But by 2014, it had multiplied itself 12 times over to about 36.6 billion dollars, I'm sorry. And these trade volumes have increased and gone up and down in various ways. And a lot of products, vegetables, fertilizers, mechanical parts, chemical parts, agricultural products, were things that were going back and forth between the two countries from a trading point of view. Of course, we can't forget the great MTN arrival, which sort of changed the dynamics between both countries. But the fact remains that there was a lot of activity that was going on. You find that South Africa buys a tremendous amount of oil from Nigeria. And I think from that point of view, the positive balance that we tend to have in South Africa is mainly from oil. What South Africa itself sells to Nigeria is one that offers South Africa a higher value. And the example I always give is that if you buy a bottle of wine from South Africa, there's a huge portion of the South African economy that's been involved in producing that bottle of wine. So the financial impact is a lot higher than when you export a barrel of crude oil, in which the value added is very, very minimal. So South Africa, from a point of view over the years, have gained a lot more in terms of value creation, value addition to the economy compared to what we've gained in just exporting crude oil and getting cash. I think going forward, we had a bit of a dip during the times when, again, oil prices went down. You find that again reduced the amount of financial interaction between both countries. But beyond that, I think both countries have come to accept the way we're going to work. And there's a lot more can be done. And I think with all the binational and various intentional actions by both countries might help to improve that situation. But the bottom line is that, yes, we've established a trading relationship. It's very much in line with what happens to the global economy and all those challenges we face with trade and internal structure of managing trade in Nigeria. But moving forward, I think there's a lot that we can discuss, and there's a lot that the two presidents can discuss when Cyril Ramaphosa comes down in a few weeks' time.
In specific, what are the key things you think the Nigerian government can actually push when the president eventually meets President Ramaphosa?
Well, I think that the first thing is that Nigeria itself, first of all, the starting point is to really lock down on the binational. There are a lot of agreements that have been signed. I think about 30 of them. The last time when we made a visit to South Africa, I think it was in 2019 or so, about 30 agreements were tidied up again, which had to do with telecommunications, aviation, trade, economic relationships, and even information technology. And the whole idea was to get the binational commissions to agree on these things. But one flaw that took place at that time was that we found that the binational commissions until now actually excluded the private sector. And the private sector was never included in business transactions that were being arranged by both countries. But I think that lesson has been learned. In terms of the kind of things that can be done, I think information technology is one major one that we can look at, because that's where Nigeria, really, funny enough, we have our strengths. We're not a manufacturing nation, so our technological capabilities, mechanical capabilities is a lot less than what South Africa, compared to South Africa. But certainly in the soft skills, in the intellectual skills, I think there's a lot that we're doing. And even if you look at what Nigeria is doing in South Africa, we have a predominance of doctors and accountants and lawyers. And even if you push it further in the area of the arts, we're doing a lot with music, with fashion. And a lot of these things do add up to revenues. So we've got to build on our strengths. Like I said, we're not a mechanical organized country, and where we rely on our people to be able to deliver. And I think we're doing that very, very well. And part of the discussion we hope we'll have will tie into also the things that we are expecting from the president of South Africa, of which a few we've been told about in advance.
Yeah. Now, there is also this issue of free visa N3 and, of course, the yellow fever card requirement. A lot of people believe Nigeria is not really serious about negotiating these things out. Is that the case?
Well, I know for a fact that one of the major things that the president of South Africa will be putting to the table is the e-visa that they've sort of perfected now. And they've got to sit down and negotiate. You know, everything's always about the reciprocity. I always get this word wrong. And the whole idea is to try and see whether Nigeria can respond in a reciprocal way to the idea of e-visas. South Africa is ready to do that. And I think if that comes through, it's going to open up a lot for South Africa in terms of trade, in terms of culture, in terms of vacation and tourism and things of that nature. And also facilitate the ability for Nigerians to go back and forth and South Africans to do the same. So we're hoping that the e-visa will be a major stepping stone. Another good news for everybody is that South African Airways, I reckon another maybe 3-4 weeks will begin to fly again. South Africa Airways has sort of restructured itself internally, and it's a great airline. I believe they've won awards over the years for being the greatest performing airlines on the continent. And we're hoping that we know they're coming back on stream. And like I said, in about another 4 or 5 weeks, they should be flying again, which will help to ease the flow of transactions and people between the two countries. And also, I hope that when the president comes, he'll be dealing with issues about the binational. I think that has got to be tidied up. There's a commission that has been set up by the two countries. The exact definition is called the Ministerial Advisory Council on Industry, Trade, and Investment. And this council is going to be made up of both private and public sector participants from both countries, so that we can sit down and let the businessmen talk business and not government talk business on behalf of the business people. So we're hoping that will be a good move when the team comes. And usually when these presidents come, when they leave everybody else to try and tidy up the details. But that's another good thing they were looking forward to.
Right. Now, sometimes in the recent past, Nigerian businesses were victims of xenophobic attacks in South Africa. Do you see this again? I remember in 2019, the president had visited South Africa as regarding this, but do you see this again coming up if eventually the president visits Nigeria? Could this also be an issue to be discussed? And of course, how can this be forestalled, the repetition of this kind of a thing be stopped?
I think in a way, it'd be fair to say we're nearly getting over this. The issue about xenophobia was not so much against Nigerians, even though Nigerians were involved. I think it was a South African problem, and let's be very honest about it. South Africa itself, like Nigeria, you're facing your own internal issues about social dissatisfaction, and the people at that level just had to take it out on somebody. And you find that most times, from a psychological point of view, when you leave a country to another one, you're going there to survive. You're not going there to play. So we found that Nigerians, Zimbabweans, Kenyans, and so on that visit South Africa, they've gone there to survive, and therefore they work a lot harder, a lot more focused, a lot more entrepreneurial than the people that are resident. And the people that are resident who haven't got the strength to go out and respond to this seeming invasion, they tend to sort of take it out on them. And this frustration is the government of the country is not giving them the kind of satisfaction they need. And then they see other people coming in and moving quite aggressively and being successful. So you find that this act of xenophobia begins to creep up. And it's just or maybe a natural defense mechanism that the South Africans have built up. But having said that, I think that we're getting over that. I think COVID itself has helped to discipline people a lot in terms of having to dampen the level of interaction that's going on, and everybody's sort of taking care of themselves. But I have a feeling that we've gone beyond this, and what you're left with is just your normal social interaction, as negative as it might be from time to time. But I think we've gone past that. And certainly when the president went in 2019, it was agreed that we sort of have a handshake and try and see how we can work together, because both countries really don't have a choice if we're going to bring Africa out of the current challenges it faces.
Absolutely. Now, you were the former chairman of Nigeria-South Africa Chamber of Commerce. How much of impact would you say the chamber made towards ensuring sustainable bilateral relations between the countries? What's your advocacy like?
Oh, well, it's right from the very beginning. The chamber's been on for nearly 20 years now or so. Right from the very beginning, I remember very clearly when we visited the then Vice President Atiku to try and talk to him about increasing the flight frequency for South African Airways. In those days, it used to be just about 3 flights a week or so. And we said, look, can we please push for daily flights? The traffic is there and the opportunity is there. And if you see we're going to really begin to work with South Africa, the first thing is to make it easy for people to move in and out. So certainly getting South African flying rights was something that we did a bit of advocacy for. The whole concept when MTN came, again, settling down, the ups and downs that were involved, there's a lot of quiet discussions that went on in trying to get MTN to sort of get itself going again. We've done a lot of annual trade visits. Literally every year, we tend to take a whole contingent of Nigerian businessmen to South Africa to look at the opportunities that they see available and just get a feel for what goes on. They have several seminars and lectures and meetings and visits to companies and factories. We've done that consistently over the years. And also received a lot of South Africans that have visited, and we tend to have a reception for them and get them to be introduce them to various people in South Africa as well. We offer visa assistance to our members to try and facilitate it. This helps the South African High Commission, because then they know the people we bring forward to them have been vetted by us. They're usually our members, and we can sort of vouch for their integrity in going out. The membership of the chamber is hovering about 300. COVID has usually had its impact, but funny enough, despite that, we still have our monthly breakfast meetings. We've done that for years and years, in which we've invited all kinds of people to come in. Even during the xenophobia, we were there trying to resolve conflicts when the students were trying to be a bit aggressive on the streets and saying we're going to have strikes and things of that nature. We called them to the table and we sat with the students, the National Association of Nigerian Students. We sat there with the High Commissioner, and we tried to resolve some type of, we came to some agreement with them, and this really worked. Again, we're very, very involved in the binational that's coming up. We're very, very involved in the joint council that I mentioned, the Advisory Council on Industry and Trade. And we continue to advise the High Commission of South Africa on various things. We provide research data for a lot of people that are visiting the country. Our place is usually the first port of call. And even since everybody's gone digital, the office is very, very busy receiving all kinds of inquiries and responding accordingly. So I think the chamber is clearly one of the most active chambers, simply because of this pressure for Nigeria, South Africa to get going. And we've been very busy and very responsive. And there's also the South Africa-Nigeria Chamber at the other end, which works very, very closely with us. And this has worked very well. And I think in terms of having the institutional framework for both countries to move on from a private sector point of view, I think certainly the Chamber's step deal with this.
All right, Mr. Phillips, in 1 minute, now we're having the launch of the AFCFTA. How do you think these two countries can actually capitalize on this initiative to boost their trade? A quick one.
Well, I think clearly it's a wonderful platform, not just for the two countries. It's almost like saying this is a funnel through which the two major economies can help to drive the rest of the African continent. The agreement is very clear. Things about having unified customs and free trade, free movement, and the ability. There's a huge market that's available to everybody, and in the process, you find out that there's much that can be done in ensuring that the various countries that are linked to Nigeria, South Africa can ride on the back of these two countries, accepting that this free trade zone and this agreement that's been signed can actually turn into something that is very, very useful. And I just remembered also that we mustn't forget, just on a sidebar, that Access Bank acquired a bank in South Africa, Grow Bank. And yes, and this is an area that we think that from a strategic point of view, Nigerian companies have found it a bit tough operating in South Africa simply because of the Black economic empowerment rules that exist. And you find that ownership rules about locals having share ownership and things of that nature. And one good strategy I think we as Nigerians should look into is that we can't move our company into these companies. We can go and acquire some of these companies, increase our portfolio, and also ensure that we can begin to do much in South Africa as South Africans are doing here.
I think that's a good way to leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Phillips, for your time on the program. We do appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Commodities market update is next. Do stay with us.